The morning sun of Prime cast long purple shadows across the training grounds of the Galactic Combat Academy. The academy had been built into the side of a mountain that overlooked a vast ocean of silver water. Its walls were made of black stone that had been from the deepest mines on the planet. For 12,000 years, warriors from across the galaxy had come to this place to learn the art of close combat. Morgan stood at the back of the training hall with 29 other human recruits. She was 26 years old with auburn hair that she kept in a tight braid. Her eyes were the color of a calm sea on Earth, and her face showed no expression as she watched the alien instructor move across the polished floor. The instructor was She stood nearly 7 feet tall and had 4 arms attached to a body covered in dark green exoskeleton. Her head was shaped like a triangle, and her compound eyes reflected the light from the crystal lamps that hung from the ceiling. She had been teaching at the academy for 300 years, and her body showed the marks of countless battles. Had been at the academy for 3 months now. Earth had only made contact with the galactic community 5 years ago, and humans were still considered newcomers to the stars. The Galactic Union had offered spots at the academy to several human military personnel as part of a cultural exchange program. Had been selected from over 10,000 applicants. She had spent those 3 months watching and learning. She had seen warriors from dozens of species demonstrate their combat techniques. She had watched four-armed fight with paired swords. She had seen them use their long tails as weapons while their hands held shields. She had observed the channel their mental powers through their blades. And she had stayed quiet. She had followed instructions. She had performed only as well as she needed to perform. Today would be different. Instructor clapped 2 of her hands together to get the attention of the class. There were about 60 students in the hall, a mix of species from across the known galaxy. The humans stood in their own group, keeping to themselves as they had been advised to do during their first year. Today we will discuss the fundamental rules of blade combat, announced. Her voice was a series of clicks and whistles that her translation device converted into standard galactic. These rules are not opinions. They are not traditions. They are facts based on 12,000 years of study and the biology of every known sentient species. She walked to the weapon rack on the eastern wall. Hundreds of practice swords hung there in neat rows. They came in every shape and size, designed for hands and claws and tentacles and things that did not have names for. Picked up 2 swords and held them out for the class to see. The first and most important rule is this, she said. No species can dual-wield effectively in combat. Felt something stir in her chest. It was a feeling she knew well. It was the feeling she got when someone told her that something was impossible. I know what some of you are thinking, continued. You have seen warriors use 2 weapons at the same time. You have seen the paired sword technique. You have heard stories of ancient heroes who fought with a blade in each hand. She paused and looked around the room. These stories are myths. The techniques you have seen are not true dual-wielding. A student raised his hand. He was a reptilian species with scales the color of rust and a tail that was almost as long as his body. Instructor, what is the difference between paired sword technique and dual-wielding? Nodded at the question. An excellent question, student. The answer lies in how the brain processes information. She set down the swords and clasped all 4 of her hands behind her back. When he uses the paired sword technique, we are not truly using 2 weapons independently. Our upper right and upper left arms work together as a single unit. Our lower right and lower left arms work together as another unit. Each pair moves in coordination like the 2 blades of a pair of scissors. This is not dual-wielding. This is paired wielding. She began to pace across the floor. True dual-wielding would require each weapon to operate completely independently of the other. Each hand would need to attack, defend, and respond to threats on its own, while still coordinating with the other hand. The neurological processing power required for this exceeds the capacity of any known brain structure. Raised her hand. A's compound eyes focused on her. The instructor had learned to identify individual humans over the past 3 months, and could tell that she recognized her. The human female who always watched but rarely spoke. Yes, Private Morgan, You said no known brain structure can handle true dual wielding, said. Her voice was calm and clear. How many species have you studied? 412 spacefaring species have been documented by the Galactic Union, A replied. The Academy has detailed neurological data on 387 of them. All data confirms that independent dual-limb combat exceeds the processing capacity of carbon-based neural networks. And how many of those species are human? The question hung in the air. Several students turned to look at. The other human recruits shifted nervously. A's mandibles clicked together in what had learned was a sign of irritation. Humans have been spacefaring for less than 5 years, the instructor said. Your species has not yet been fully studied. However, preliminary data suggests that human neurology follows the same basic patterns as other carbon-based sentients. There is no reason to believe that humans would be any different. Nodded slowly. With respect, instructor, your preliminary data might be incomplete. The training hall went quiet. Even the soft hum of the ventilation system seemed to fade away. A took a step toward. Are you suggesting that humans can do something that 412 other species cannot? I'm not suggesting anything, said. I'm stating a fact. Humans have been dual-wielding in combat for thousands of years. A sound moved through the crowd of students. It might have been laughter or disbelief or anticipation. Could not tell. A's compound eyes studied her for a long moment. Private Morgan, the instructor said slowly, the Academy values confidence in its students, but it does not value arrogance. What you are claiming goes against everything we know about biology and neurology. Then maybe what you know is not as complete as you think. The words were not said with anger or mockery. Spoke them the same way she might have said that the sky was blue or that water was wet. It was simply a statement of fact. O was quiet for several seconds. Then she turned to the rest of the class. It seems we have an opportunity for a practical demonstration, she announced. Private Morgan believes that humans can dual-wield. I believe that she is wrong. We will settle this question the way warriors have settled questions for 12,000 years. She gestured to the combat circle in the center of the training hall. It was a ring of polished black stone about 30 feet across. Private Morgan, please select 2 weapons from the rack. You will face one of our combat training drones. The drone will attack with a single blade using randomized patterns at level 3 difficulty. This is the standard test for first-year students. You will defend and counterattack using your 2 weapons. She paused. Independently. Walked to the weapon rack. She could feel the eyes of every student in the hall following her. She could hear whispered conversations in a dozen different languages. She took her time selecting her weapons. The practice swords were weighted to match real blades, but their edges were coated with smart foam that would register hits without causing serious damage. She picked up one sword and tested its balance. Too heavy. She set it down and picked up another. Too light. The third one felt right in her hand. She selected a matching blade for her left hand. Daniel Carter, the senior human recruit, caught her eye from across the hall. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that had seen too many fights. He had been a sergeant in the Earth Defense Force before being selected for the Academy. Now he just gave a small nod. He knew what she could do. All the human recruits knew. They had been waiting for this moment for 3 months. Walked to the center of the combat circle. The stone was smooth and cool beneath her boots. A panel in the ceiling slid open, and a combat drone descended. It was a metal sphere about the size of a basketball with a single-jointed arm extending from its side. The arm held a practice sword identical to the ones carried. Blue lights flickered across its surface as its combat programming activated. A move to the observation platform at the edge of the circle. Combat will begin on my signal, she announced. The match will end when one combatant scores 3 registered hits or when Private Morgan concedes defeat. Settled into her stance. She placed her feet at a slight angle, her weight distributed evenly between them. Her right hand held its sword in a standard grip, the blade angled forward and up. Her left hand held its sword in a reverse grip, the blade running back along her forearm. The stance felt natural to her. She had been practicing it since she was 14 years old. A's mandibles clicked in confusion. What technique is this? I do not recognize the form. It's called Florentine, replied. Named after a city on Earth. The technique has been around for about 500 years. Some people also call it dual sword or two-weapon fighting. Begin. The drone attacked. Its opening move was a diagonal slash from high to low. It was a basic attack, the kind that any student learned to block in their first week at the academy. The standard response was to raise a single blade at an angle that would deflect the attack to the side. Did not give the standard response. Her right-hand sword came up in a parry that redirected the drone's blade. At the exact same moment, her left-hand sword snapped forward in a thrust. The reverse grip allowed her to punch the blade forward like a spear while keeping her wrist protected. The tip of her sword struck the drone's central sensor cluster. A chime sounded from the scoring system, 1 hit. The drone reset its position. Its programming analyzed the attack pattern and adjusted its strategy. It came at again, this time with a 2-strike combination. A horizontal slash aimed at her midsection, followed by a quick thrust toward her throat. Its response was like water flowing around stones. Her left blade came up to catch the horizontal slash. At the same moment, her right blade was already moving. It did not wait for the drone's second attack. It went forward in a counterattack that forced the drone to abandon its combination and defend itself. But the drone only had one sword. While it blocked right-hand attack, her left-hand blade was free. It had finished deflecting the first slash and was now coming around in a sweeping arc that caught the drone on its arm joint. 2 chimes, 2 hits. Whispers filled the training hall. Students from a dozen species leaned forward to watch more closely. Even Instructor had moved to the very edge of the observation platform. The drone paused for half a second as its programming adjusted again. Level 3 difficulty meant that it would learn from each exchange and become more challenging. Its third attack was faster and more complex. It launched a 4-strike pattern designed to overwhelm a single-weapon defender through sheer speed. Most students at level 3 would retreat. They would give ground and focus on surviving the attack until they found an opening. Stepped forward. She moved into the drone's attack rather than away from it. Her blades danced in a pattern that seemed impossible. Right hand high to block the first strike. Left hand low to deflect the second. Then both blades reversed their positions in a spiraling motion that trapped the drone's sword between them. The drone tried to pull back, but it was too late, twisted her wrists in opposite directions. The torque wrenched the drone's blade to the side, leaving its body completely exposed. Her right-hand sword tapped the drone's power core. 3 chimes, match over. The training hall was silent. Lowered her swords and turned to face Instructor. Her breathing was a little faster than normal, but her hands were perfectly steady. There was no triumph in her expression, no arrogance, just the same calm certainty she had shown since the beginning. Descended from the observation platform. Her 4 legs carried her across the floor with careful, measured steps. She stopped in front of and studied her with all of her compound eyes. That was not paired wielding, the Instructor said slowly. No, agreed, it was not. Each blade moved independently of the other. You were attacking and defending simultaneously with both weapons. That should not be possible. And yet it happened. Was quiet for a long moment. The students around them remained frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. How, the Instructor finally asked. How do humans do this? Our neurological models say it cannot be done. Set her practice swords back on the rack before she answered. Humans have a very adaptable brain, she said. We call it neuroplasticity. It means that our brains can rewire themselves based on how we use them. If we practice something enough, our brains will literally change their structure to make that thing easier. She turned back to face, On Earth, we figured out dual-wielding a long time ago. The technique I showed you today was developed in Italy during a period we call the Renaissance. That was about 500 years ago, but there were other cultures that developed similar techniques even earlier. The Japanese had a style called ryu that used a long sword and a short sword together. Some Filipino martial arts used two sticks or two knives. The list goes on. A's mandibles clicked rapidly. It was a sign of deep thought. But the processing requirements, she said. The calculations clearly show that independent limb coordination in combat exceeds the capacity of any neural network. Your calculations assume that the brain has to consciously process every movement, replied. That's not how humans do it. We practice until the movements become automatic. We call it muscle memory, but it's really brain memory. The conscious mind doesn't have to think about what each hand is doing because the unconscious mind handles it. She smiled slightly. It's the same way you don't have to think about walking. Your brain learned how to coordinate your legs when you were young, and now it does it automatically. We just learned how to do the same thing with weapons. A was silent for a long time. The other students had begun to whisper among themselves, but the instructor ignored them. You could have demonstrated this on your first day, she finally said. Why did you wait 3 months? The smile faded. Because I wanted to learn first, she said. I wanted to watch and listen and understand how you see combat. I wanted to know what you thought was impossible before I showed you what humans can do. Why? Because that's the other thing about humans, said. We don't just accept the impossible, we study it, we understand it, and then we figure out how to do it anyway. I looked at her for another long moment. Then she did something that none of the students had ever seen her do before. She bowed. It was not a deep bow, just a slight inclination of her triangular head. But among any bow from a senior warrior to a junior one was a significant gesture of respect. It seems I have much to learn about humans, I said. We have much to learn from you too, replied. That's why we're here. I straightened and turned to face the rest of the class. Today's lesson has taken an unexpected turn, she announced. What we have witnessed changes nothing about the fundamental principles of combat, but it does remind us that the universe is larger than our understanding of it. She looked at Private Morgan, I would like you to stay after class. I have questions about human combat techniques that I believe only you can answer. Nodded, of course, instructor. The rest of the class continued, but there was a different energy in the room now. Students kept glancing at and whispering to their neighbors. The other human recruits stood a little taller than they had before. When the class finally ended and the students filed out, remained in the training hall. Daniel Carter caught her eye on his way out and gave her a thumbs up. She nodded back at him. Then she was alone with Instructor The walked to the weapon rack and picked up 2 practice swords of her own. She held them in her upper 2 hands, leaving her lower 2 hands empty. Show me, she said. Raised an eyebrow. Show you what? Everything. Show me how humans fight with 2 blades. I have been an instructor for 300 years. I thought I had seen every combat technique in the galaxy. I was wrong. She paused. I do not like being wrong. I would like to correct my error. Walked back to the center of the combat circle. It's going to take more than 1 afternoon, she said. Then we will train every afternoon until I understand. Smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm and genuine. Okay, she said. Let's start with the basics. For the next 3 hours, Morgan taught a 300-year-old alien warrior how to hold 2 swords. She explained the importance of using different grips for each hand. She demonstrated how the reverse grip on the offhand allowed for quick blocks and unexpected thrusts. She showed how the body had to rotate to generate power, and how footwork was the foundation of everything. I was a patient student. She listened carefully and asked intelligent questions. Her forearms gave her more options than a human would have, but they also created new challenges. The muscle memory that humans developed did not translate directly to physiology. You must unlearn your paired-wielding instincts, told her. Your upper arms want to move together. You have to teach them to be independent. This is surprisingly difficult, I admitted. It took me years to learn, said. And I started when I was young, but you're a warrior, you understand discipline, you'll figure it out. They kept training until the purple sun began to set over the silver ocean. The training hall's crystal lamps flickered on automatically, casting warm light across the polished floor. Finally, A lowered her swords. "I believe that is enough for today," she said. "My upper arms are trembling. I did not think that was possible." Set her own swords aside. "Muscle fatigue. Your arms are using movements they're not used to. It will get better with practice." A nodded slowly. "Private Morgan, I have a question." "Ask." "Why did Earth send you here? You are clearly more skilled than the other human recruits. You could have been an instructor rather than a student." Was quiet for a moment. "Earth wanted to see how we would be received," she said finally. "The Galactic Union is new to us. We don't know what to expect. The people in charge thought it would be better to send someone who could observe and learn before revealing too much about what humans can do." "A spy?" I asked. "A scout," corrected. "There's a difference. A spy gathers information to use against you. A scout gathers information to understand you. We want to be allies, not enemies. But we've learned from our history that it's better to understand someone before you trust them completely." "I considered this." "A wise approach," she said. "The Galactic Union has existed for 50,000 years. In that time, we have seen many new species join the community. Some have been friends, some have been threats. We have learned to be cautious as well." She walked to the observation platform and picked up a data pad. "I will need to report what happened today to the Academy Council," she said. "They will want to see the footage of your demonstration." "I expected that," said. "They will have questions. They may want additional demonstrations. There will be requests from other departments to study human neurology and physiology." "Also expected." I looked up from her data pad. "You planned for this," she said. "It was not a question." "Earth has been preparing for first contact for a long time," replied. "We knew that eventually we would meet other species. We thought about what we would show them and what we would keep hidden. We made plans." "And dual-wielding was something you decided to reveal." "It's just one small thing," said. "A demonstration that humans can do things that other species think are impossible. We wanted you to know that about us." A's mandibles clicked in what had learned was the equivalent of a smile. "What else can humans do that we think is impossible?" Picked up her jacket from where she had left it by the wall. "That's a conversation for another day, Instructor." She gave a respectful nod and walked toward the exit. She was almost at the door when I spoke again. Private Morgans turned. "Thank you," I said, "for teaching me something new. It has been a very long time since anyone did that." Smiled. "Thank you for being willing to learn," she said. "That's not something everyone can do." She walked out into the cool evening air of Prime. The purple sun had almost set, and two of the planet's 3 moons were rising over the ocean. The air smelled like salt and something that was almost like cinnamon. Daniel Carter was waiting for her outside. "How did it go?" he asked. "Better than expected," said. "Oh, is smart. She understood what we showed her today." "So what happens now?" Looked up at the alien sky with its unfamiliar stars. "Now the real work begins," she said. "The demonstration today was just to get their attention. The hard part is building trust." "You think we can do that?" "I think we have to try," said. "The galaxy is a big place, Dan. Humanity is going to need friends out here. Today was the first step." They walked together toward the dormitory building where the human recruits were housed. Other students passed them on the path and noticed that many of them were looking at her differently than they had that morning. Word was spreading. "The others want to know if they can start showing what they can do too," Daniel said. "Rachel has been dying to demonstrate her combat endurance. Ben wants to show off his pain tolerance training. Everyone is tired of pretending to be average." "Consider this." "Tell them to wait," she said finally. "One revelation at a time. Let the Academy process what they learned today before we give them anything else." "How long?" "A week, maybe 2. We'll see how they react." They reached the dormitory building and went inside. The common room was full of human recruits who had been waiting for to return. They fell silent when she walked in. "It went well," she told them. "Instructor is going to report to the Academy Council. They'll probably want more demonstrations in the coming days." "What do we do in the meantime?" someone asked. "We keep learning," said. "That's why we're here. These people have been fighting with swords for 12,000 years. They have techniques and knowledge that we can't even imagine. Just because we can do some things they can't doesn't mean we don't have a lot to learn from them." She looked around the room at her fellow humans. "Remember why Earth sent us here," she said. "We're not here to show off. We're not here to prove that humans are better than everyone else. We're here to learn and to build relationships. The demonstration today was necessary, but it was just a tool. The real goal is still the same." Rachel Hayes, a tall woman with short black hair and the build of a distance runner, raised her hand. "What happens if they see us as a threat?" she asked. "You showed them that we can do something they thought was impossible. That might scare them." "It might," admitted. "That's why we have to be careful about how we present ourselves. We're not here to intimidate anyone. We're here to show that humans can be valuable allies." Ben Torres, a stocky man with a calm face and eyes that had seen too much, spoke up. "Some of the other students have been asking questions," he said. "They want to know what else humans can do. How much should we tell them?" "Be honest but not detailed," said. "If someone asks if humans can do something, don't lie, but you don't have to explain exactly how we do it either. Save the demonstrations for when they matter." The conversation continued for another hour as the human recruits discussed what had happened and what it might mean for their time at the academy. Eventually, people started drifting off to their rooms to rest. Was the last one left in the common room. She sat by the window, looking out at the alien ocean under the light of 3 moons. She thought about Earth, so far away now. She thought about the long history of her species, all the wars and struggles and triumphs that had shaped humanity into what it was today. She thought about the future and what it might hold for her people among the stars. There was so much that the galaxy did not know about humans. The dual-wielding was just the beginning. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They could adapt to almost any environment. They could push through pain and exhaustion through sheer force of will. And they never, ever gave up. The Galactic Union had been watching humanity since they first detected radio signals from Earth. They had seen humans fight 2 world wars. They had watched humans split the atom and walk on their moon. They had observed humans create art and music and literature that expressed the full range of their complex emotions. But they had not truly understood what humans were until today. Today, Morgan had shown them that humans did not accept limits. When the universe said no, humans asked why. When mathematics said impossible, humans demanded proof. When biology said limit, humans trained until the limit moved. It was just one small demonstration in one training hall on one alien planet. But it was the first crack in a wall of assumptions that the galaxy had built over 50,000 years. Smiled to herself in the darkness. This was going to be interesting. The next morning was summoned to the Academy Council chamber. It was a circular room at the top of the highest tower, with windows that looked out in every direction. The council was made up of 12 senior instructors from different species, and they sat in a ring around a central platform where stood. A was among them. She gave a small nod when their eyes met. The head of the council was a being called the Grand Master. He was of one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His body was thin and tall, almost skeletal, and his skin was the color of polished silver. His eyes were solid black orbs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Private Morgan," the Grand Master said. His voice was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We have reviewed the footage of your demonstration yesterday. The Council has questions." "I will answer what I can, Grand Master." "How many humans can perform the technique you demonstrated?" Thought about the question carefully before answering. "Dual-wielding is not common," she said. "On Earth, it is considered an advanced martial skill. Most soldiers and fighters use a single weapon or a weapon and shield combination, but those who dedicate themselves to the art can learn it. What percentage of your military is trained in this technique? I don't have exact numbers, said, but I would estimate that perhaps 1 in 1,000 soldiers has some training in dual wielding. Far fewer have mastered it. The council members whispered among themselves. The number seemed to both relieve and concern them. You are among the masters, the Grand Master asked. I have trained since I was 14 years old, said. I am skilled, but there are others on Earth who are better than me. Why were you selected for the academy? I was selected because I am good enough to demonstrate our capabilities, but not so exceptional that Earth would be unwilling to send me abroad. The Grand Master tilted his head slightly. An honest answer, we appreciate honesty. He leaned forward in his chair. Private Morgan, the combat techniques of a species tell us much about their nature. They are methodical and coordinated as their paired wielding reflects. They are patient predators, using their tails to strike when opponents least expect it. They are introspective, channeling internal energy into external force. His black eyes fixed on. What does dual wielding tell us about humans? Thought about the question for a long moment. It was a good question, maybe the most important question anyone had asked her since she arrived at the academy. It tells you that humans refuse to accept limitations, she said finally. When we encounter a problem, we don't look for reasons why it can't be solved. We look for ways to solve it. Dual wielding requires the brain to do something that biology says is impossible. But humans wanted to fight with 2 swords, so we found a way to make our brains capable of it. She paused. That's what we do, Grand Master. We want something, we work for it, and we find a way. It's not always pretty, it's not always elegant, but we don't stop. The chamber was quiet. The Galactic Union has observed your species for many of your years, the Grand Master said. We have watched your wars and your achievements. We have debated whether humanity would be a friend or a threat to the galactic community. What have you decided? The Grand Master's thin lips curved into something that might have been a smile. We have decided that the question cannot be answered from a distance. That is why we invited humans to the academy. We wanted to see what you would do when placed among the warriors of other species. He stood, and his long robes rustled around him. What you have shown us is that humans can surprise us. That is valuable information. Whether it makes you friends or threats remains to be seen. He looked around at the other council members. Does anyone else have questions for Private Morgan? One by one, the council members shook their heads or made equivalent gestures. The Grand Master nodded. Then this session is concluded. Private Morgan, you will continue your training at the academy. Instructor has requested permission to study human combat techniques more closely. That permission is granted. You will assist her. Yes, Grand Master. One more thing, the Grand Master said. The academy has many traditions. One of them is that exceptional students are given the opportunity to demonstrate their skills in public exhibitions. These exhibitions are attended by dignitaries from across the Galactic Union. He paused. In 3 months, there will be such an exhibition. You are invited to participate. You may demonstrate any technique you choose. Felt her heart beat faster. I am honored, Grand Master. I accept. Good, you are dismissed. Bowed and left the chamber. Her mind was racing with possibilities. 3 months to prepare. 3 months to decide what else humans would reveal to the galaxy. She found a waiting for her outside. The Grand Master was impressed, the instructor said. I could tell he does not often show interest in individual students. I could not tell what he was thinking at all, admitted. His face gives nothing away. They are ancient, said. They have had millions of years to perfect the art of concealing their thoughts, but I have worked with the Grand Master for 300 years. I know his moods. They began walking together through the academy's corridors. What will you demonstrate at the exhibition? I asked. I don't know yet, said. I need to think about it, and I need to communicate with Earth. This is a decision that affects more than just me. You do not have authority to decide on your own. I have authority, said, but good leaders consult with others before making important decisions. That is another thing humans have learned from our history. I made a clicking sound that had learned meant approval. I would like to offer my assistance, the instructor said. Whatever you decide to demonstrate, I can help you prepare, and I can explain the political implications of different choices. The exhibition is not just a display of skill. It is a statement to the galaxy. Nodded slowly. I would appreciate that, instructor. Please, I said. When we are training together, call me. My full name is for formal occasions. Smiled, okay, and you can call me. They reached the entrance to the training hall. Shall we continue where we left off yesterday? Asked. Yes, said, but today I want you to teach me something too. What would you like to learn? The paired sword technique you mentioned. The style. If I am going to help you understand human dual-wielding, I should understand how your people fight with multiple weapons. His compound eyes seemed to brighten. An excellent approach, she said. Come, let us learn from each other. They entered the training hall together. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a plan began to form. A plan for the exhibition. A plan to show the galaxy something even more impressive than dual-wielding. A plan to show them what humanity was really made of. But that was still 3 months away. For now, there was training to do. Picked up her swords and stepped into the combat circle. Let's begin, she said. And they did.